If this beautiful story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel to receive more stories every day. It was a quiet night when the unexpected happened. LeBron James's longtime friend, Marcus Reynolds, was at home with his family, enjoying a rare moment of rest after a long day of work. Everything seemed normal until a strong smell of smoke began to spread through the house. At first he thought it might be something coming from outside, but within minutes he realized something was wrong. As he ran into the hallway, he saw flames rapidly climbing up the kitchen wall. The fire was spreading at a terrifying speed, consuming furniture, curtains, and everything in its path. The intense heat made it hard to breathe, and thick smoke had already filled the rooms. Marcus shouted for his wife and children to get out immediately. In the midst of the chaos, he managed to grab only a few essential items before fleeing with his family to the street. Outside, with wide eyes and a racing heart, Marcus watched his home being consumed by the fire. Firefighters arrived quickly, but the fire had already caused irreversible damage. He tried to process what was happening, but the reality was harsh. Everything he had built over the years, all the memories and achievements, had turned to ashes. As he watched the flames dance, in the night sky, a feeling of helplessness overwhelmed him. What would he do now? Where would he go with his family? In the midst of the confusion, a friend grabbed Marcus's phone and sent an urgent message to someone who could help: LeBron James. The response didn't take long, and when LeBron found out what had happened, he knew he needed to act immediately. It was late at night when LeBron James picked up his phone to check his messages. Among work notifications and routine conversations, a familiar name caught his attention: Marcus Reynolds. But the message wasn't from Marcus. It was from a mutual friend. LeBron, a tragedy has happened. Marcus's house caught fire. He lost everything. LeBron's heart raced. He reread the message several times, trying to absorb what it meant. Marcus wasn't just any friend. He was someone who had always been by his side since the difficult times of their youth. It was Marcus who believed in him before fame, who supported him in moments of doubt, and now that same friend was facing a devastating loss. Without a second thought, LeBron picked up the phone and called. When Marcus answered, his voice was heavy with exhaustion and sadness. The fire had taken not only material possessions, but also years of memories, effort, and achievements. The family was safe, but the emotional impact was immeasurable. As he listened to his friend speak, LeBron felt a tightness in his chest. He knew words of comfort wouldn't be enough. Marcus needed more than just distant support. That's when he made a decision. He would go to Marcus in person. No calls, no text messages. He needed to look his friend in the eye and show him he wasn't alone. That same night, LeBron began organizing everything for his trip. He had no idea what exactly he would do when he got there, but he was sure of one thing: he wouldn't let Marcus face this alone. LeBron James's private plane landed discreetly at the airport before dawn. He had decided not to tell Marcus he was coming. He wanted to surprise him and ensure his support was felt in the most genuine way possible. As soon as he stepped off the plane, accompanied only by a security guard and an assistant, he rented a car and drove straight to the hotel where Marcus and his family were staying. The ride was silent. LeBron looked out the window, reflecting on the impact of the tragedy. He tried to imagine what Marcus was feeling, but he knew that losing everything in a matter of minutes was a pain difficult to comprehend. They had a friendship that dated back to their teenage years, when they shared dreams and hardships, when Marcus was one of the few who always encouraged him, believing he could be great. Now it was LeBron who needed to be by his side. When they arrived at the hotel, LeBron quickly went up to the room Marcus was temporarily staying in. He took a deep breath before knocking on the door. A few seconds later, the doorknob slowly turned, and there was Marcus, in a sweatsuit and a tired look, with deep bags under his eyes and the expression of someone who hadn't slept at all. For a moment he froze, unable to believe what he was seeing. "Man, what are you doing here?" Marcus asked, his voice choked with emotion. LeBron didn't answer immediately. He just opened his arms and pulled him into a strong, silent hug. That gesture said it all. Marcus closed his eyes and for the first time since the tragedy felt he wasn't alone. After a few moments, LeBron patted him on the back and smiled. "You thought I was going to stand still after finding out what happened? No way, I'm here, brother. We'll fix this together." Marcus nodded, holding back tears. LeBron's presence meant much more than he could express. And little did he know, this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Marcus closed the door slowly, still trying to process what had just happened. LeBron James, one of the biggest basketball stars in the world, was there, in front of him, just like in the old days. Not as an idol, not as a millionaire, but as the friend he had always been, the guy who never forgot his roots. The two sat down at the small table in the hotel room. For a few moments, silence filled the space. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence, but one filled with meaning. LeBron watched Marcus closely, noticing the signs of exhaustion on his face, the lost look, the heavy breathing of someone who still couldn't believe their own reality. "How are you holding up?" LeBron asked, his voice low but firm. Marcus let out a long sigh, resting his elbows on the table and running his hands over his face. "Man, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. One minute I was at home with my family, and the next, everything was on fire. I tried to save something, anything, but the fire was too fast. Nothing was left." LeBron nodded, feeling the weight of his friend's words. He couldn't even imagine the pain of losing everything so suddenly. "But your family is okay. That's the most important thing." "Yeah, thank God, but I look at them and feel like a failure. I was supposed to protect them, to make sure they never went through something like this. And now we're here, without a home, without knowing what to do." Marcus's voice broke at the end of the sentence and he looked away, trying to hold back tears. But LeBron didn't let him sink into that feeling of helplessness. He reached out and firmly squeezed his friend's shoulder. "Hey, stop that. You didn't fail at anything. What happened was a tragedy, something out of your control, but listen to me. You're not going to face this alone." Marcus looked at him, still not fully understanding what LeBron meant. "I came here because you're my brother, and brothers take care of each other. I don't know exactly how, but believe me when I say I'm going to help you get through this." For a moment, Marcus didn't know how to respond. Part of him wanted to argue, to say it wasn't fair to receive help, that this was a problem he needed to solve on his own. But another part, a part tired of fighting alone, felt profound relief hearing those words. LeBron stood up and lightly tapped the table. "Enough talking about problems. We're going to start fixing this. First, we're getting out of here. You need a better place to stay." Marcus blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" LeBron smiled. "You'll see. Grab your things." Without further explanation, LeBron was already on his feet, ready for the next step of what he had in mind. Marcus hesitated for a moment, but deep down he knew that when LeBron set his mind to something, nothing could stop him. He didn't know exactly where they were going, but one thing was certain: his life was about to change in unexpected ways. Marcus was still trying to understand what was happening as he packed his few belongings into a backpack. LeBron, impatient as always when he had a plan in mind, was already at the door, looking at his watch. "Hurry up, man," he said with a smile. "Time doesn't wait and we have a lot to do." Marcus shook his head, unable to believe it. Just a few hours ago, he was drowning in a sea of uncertainty, not knowing what to do or where to go. Now, there was LeBron, bringing a different energy, as if he were determined to change his situation in a way Marcus couldn't yet see. The two went down to the hotel lobby. As soon as they stepped out the front door, a luxurious car was already waiting for them. Marcus hesitated. "LeBron, I don't know what you're planning, but you don't have to do this, man. We'll figure it out." LeBron rolled his eyes and opened the car door. "Get in, Marcus, and learn this. Accepting help isn't weakness." Without argument, Marcus got into the car, and soon they were on their way. He looked out the window, trying to guess where they were going. "All right, can you tell me now where we're going?" LeBron smiled. "First, making sure you and your family are okay. I found a better place for you to stay for now. No more cramped, uncomfortable hotels." A few minutes later, the car stopped in front of a high-end condominium. Marcus's eyes widened as he saw the luxurious entrance and reinforced security. When they got out, a staff member greeted them and handed LeBron a key. The apartment is fully furnished, ready for you. It's not permanent, but at least you'll have a decent place to breathe and plan for the future. Marcus looked at LeBron, completely surprised. Man, this is too much. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just go in and make yourself at home. Inside the apartment, everything felt surreal. It was spacious, comfortable, and equipped with everything he and his family could need. When his wife and children arrived, the reaction was immediate. Tight hugs, tears of relief, and a feeling of hope beginning to emerge. Marcus looked at LeBron, still trying to process everything. This is already more than I could ask for. LeBron smiled, but his expression showed he wasn't done yet. This is just the beginning, my brother. Now let's talk about what really matters. Your future. Marcus frowned, confused. What do you mean by that? LeBron patted him on the shoulder and smiled. You'll see. Tomorrow we start rebuilding your life, and I already have a plan. Marcus barely slept that night. Despite the comfort of the new apartment, his mind was full of thoughts. LeBron's generosity was something he would never forget. But one question kept hammering in his head. What now? How do you start over from scratch? The next morning, as he was still trying to organize his thoughts, LeBron showed up at the apartment door. He was holding 2 cups of coffee and had a determined smile on his face. Let's take a walk, brother. We have some things to sort out. Marcus took the coffee, still half asleep, and followed LeBron to the car. During the ride, the basketball star talked about everything except their destination. Marcus, already used to his friend's enigmatic ways, decided not to press and just watched as the car drove away from the city. After about 30 minutes on the road, they entered a quiet residential neighborhood. It was a peaceful area with modern houses, spacious backyards, and tree-lined streets. The car stopped in front of a beautiful single-story house with a light facade and large windows. Marcus looked around, confused. LeBron, what are we doing? Here? LeBron simply smiled and handed him a key. Welcome to your new home. Silence filled the moment. Marcus looked at the key in his hand and then at LeBron, as if waiting for this to be some kind of joke. Wait. What? Man, I knew you'd never accept it if I told you beforehand. But I've already taken care of everything. This house is yours. Marcus took a step back, shaking his head. LeBron, I can't accept this. It's too much. You've already done so much for us. LeBron crossed his arms, serious. Marcus, listen carefully. You've always been there for me, even when I had nothing. You never asked for anything in return, never expected favors or money. Now, life has turned around, and I have the chance to give back. So do me and your family a favor. Accept it. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. He looked at the house once more, then at LeBron. The emotion was overwhelming. He felt the weight of relief, gratitude, and true friendship. Unable to contain his emotions, Marcus pulled LeBron into a tight hug. I don't even know how to thank you. You don't have to. Just do one thing, start over. This house is just the beginning. Now we're going to make sure you have everything you need to rebuild your life. Marcus wiped away his tears and smiled. For the first time since the tragedy, he felt there was a future for him and his family, and the best was yet to come. Marcus was still processing the fact that this house was now his. He walked through the rooms in silence, touching the walls as if he needed to feel that it was all real. The smell of fresh paint was still in the air, and every detail of the place seemed to have been thoughtfully considered. When he returned to the living room, he found LeBron leaning against the doorframe, a satisfied smile on his face. Starting. To believe it now? LeBron asked. Marcus laughed, still emotional. Man, this is surreal. I expected to have to start from scratch, you know? I didn't think I'd have a home so soon. LeBron shook his head and pointed to the garage. Well, you'd better get ready because I'm not done yet. Come here. Confused, Marcus followed him to the garage. When LeBron opened the door, Marcus saw a brand new car parked inside. It was a spacious SUV, perfect for him and his family. LeBron, Marcus whispered, incredulous. Before you start with that whole I can't accept this speech, let me remind you that you need a car to get back to work, take your kids to school, and rebuild your routine. This isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Marcus ran his hands over his face, trying to hold back tears. With every moment, it seemed LeBron had thought of everything. "And there's one more thing," LeBron continued, pulling an envelope from his pocket. "This is a fund to help you start. Over. Enough money to furnish the house, buy clothes for everyone, and take care of anything else you might need." Marcus took the envelope, but couldn't bring himself to open it. He just held it tightly, as if holding proof that he was no longer alone. He took a deep breath and looked at LeBron, unsure how to express such immense gratitude. I don't even know what to say." LeBron placed a hand on his shoulder and smiled. "You don't have to say anything, just promise me one thing." "What?" "That you'll use all of this to truly start over. Not just rebuild what you lost, but build something even greater." Marcus nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. "I promise." LeBron smiled, satisfied, and looked at the house once more. "Then I think there's one last thing we need to do before closing this chapter." Marcus frowned. "What?" LeBron took a step back and spread his arms. "Time to celebrate. Let's show the world that nothing can keep a guy like you down." And with that, Marcus realized that his story of overcoming wasn't just being written, it was also inspiring countless others. Night fell, and with it came a different energy in the air. For the first time since the fire, Marcus felt a weight lifting off his shoulders. He looked around the new house, seeing his wife and children smiling again. The fear and uncertainty that had consumed them in recent days were now giving way to hope. LeBron, as always, wanted to mark the moment in a special way. He organized a simple but meaningful dinner. He invited some close friends, people who had always been by Marcus's side, and made sure the night was about celebration, not lamentation. As everyone gathered in the living room, Marcus picked up a glass of wine and stood up. The sound of lively conversation gradually died down until all eyes were on him. He looked at each face in the room, took a deep breath, and with a choked voice began to speak. "A few days ago, I thought my life was over. I lost everything in a matter of minutes. I saw my family without a home, not knowing what to do, and for a moment I really thought I wouldn't have the strength to get back up." The room was completely silent, but then I was reminded of the power of friendship, love, and generosity, not just from LeBron but from each of you who helped me, supported me, and didn't let me face this alone. He paused, swallowing hard. "Today I have a home again. My family is safe, and more than that, I have the certainty that this tragedy didn't define my end. It only marked the beginning of a new chapter." Marcus raised his glass. "So I just want to say one thing. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, and may this new chapter be the best one yet." Everyone raised their glasses, and the room filled with applause and words of encouragement. LeBron lightly punched Marcus's arm and smiled. "Now that's the guy I know." The night continued with laughter, stories, and a sense of renewal. But deep down, Marcus knew there was one last thing to do. Something that could turn his pain into purpose and ensure that others would never have to go through what he had, and LeBron already knew exactly what it was. The next morning, Marcus woke up with a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time: peace. The dinner the night before hadn't just celebrated his fresh start, it had reignited something in him that had dimmed in recent days, the desire to move forward and make a difference. He got up, grabbed a coffee, and stepped out into the backyard of the new house. The sun was shining brightly, and a gentle breeze carried a sense of renewal. As he gazed at the horizon, he heard footsteps behind him. "Up early, huh?" LeBron commented, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. Marcus smiled. "Hard to sleep. After everything that's happened, it still feels like a dream." LeBron nodded. "And now? What's next?" Marcus was silent for a moment. In recent days, his mind had been focused solely on survival, but now that his family was safe, he knew he needed to do something bigger. He turned to LeBron, a different spark in his eyes. "I want to help others. I want to make sure no one goes through what I went through without support." LeBron smiled, satisfied. "I knew you'd say that." "Really?" "Of course. That's always been your way. You've never been the type to think only about yourself. So, what do you have in mind?" Marcus took a deep breath and began speaking with enthusiasm. "I want to create a support fund for families who've lost everything in fires or disasters, something that can provide temporary shelter, clothes, Food, psychological support, everything I needed these past few days. LeBron smiled and nodded. That's amazing, man, and you're not doing it alone. I'm in. Marcus was surprised. Really? Of course, we'll use our influence, our network, and turn this idea into something big. Marcus felt a shiver run through him. For the first time since the tragedy, he no longer saw himself as a victim, but as someone capable of changing other people's realities. In the following months, he and LeBron worked together to bring the project to life. Companies, athletes, and artists joined the cause, and the support fund quickly gained recognition. In no time, Marcus was helping dozens of families, offering them the same support he had received during his darkest days. What had started as a nightmare had turned into a mission, and Marcus learned that sometimes the greatest pains lead to the grandest purposes, and all of it happened because a friend decided he wouldn't face this battle alone. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like so more people can discover stories that change lives.